Hi, this is Perry with the Hampton Network. So if you ask yourself the question about, what exactly is web hosting and how does that actually work when you go, to a web host and, when you set up hosting and you go and register a domain, have you actually wondered how that works? So I did a video the other day on how to set up a blog in 2020. I didn't cover much about web hosting in that video. So what I want to do today is just take a few minutes and just kind of try to simplify exactly what web hosting is in this web hosting tutorial for beginners. So let's continue. So what is web hosting? Okay, and how do websites work? I'm going to be talking about the domain name system here. You've probably heard the term DNS. That's the acronym for it. So basically what happens, let me just open up these here real quick. So what happens is you start off as a visitor, and what that is just your domain name, and you can see there. Then it goes from there to the DNS servers, and that's a fictitious IP or Internet Protocol address. From there, it'll go to your web host, then on to your domain registrar. Now I used a lot of the biggest names here in terms of web hosting and domain registrars. I use Bluehost, so that's my web host of choice, and GoDaddy for domains. I think they're one of the biggest domain registrars today, if I'm not mistaken. So the web host will send you an email with the domain name service. Once you get your hosting account from, let's say, Bluehost, for example, they're going to send you an email. Within that email, it'll have your login credentials. It'll also have your domain name, but it'll have your domain name service. Now I have a graphic in a couple of slides, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. They're going to send you an email with your domain name service. So all you have to do, let's say you use GoDaddy to register your domain. All you have to do is go back into GoDaddy, update that the domain name servers, and all you got to do is it'll be a button that says Manage Domain once you see a list of your domains in GoDaddy. Then all you do is just update the DNS, and that is just a matter of copy and pasting those two domain name servers that they're going to give you into the Bluehost domain. It's really easy. Once you actually start to do it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So after that, the DNS, pretty much all that does is translate your domain name into an IP address. That's basically how that works. You'll see better in the graphic once I set that up here in one of the next slides. So we'll continue on to how websites work. When you open a browser and type in a domain name, like let's say google.com, what happens then is that browser will send that domain name to a DNS, to a domain name server, where it maps it to an actual IP address of your web host, which would be Bluehost per our example. And on that host is where all your files are set up. So that's how the website is downloaded. So I'm trying to just keep it as simple as I can, and I certainly hope you guys can understand. So simply put, when you register a domain, you should have access to the domain settings, and whatever you put in those domain settings will define pretty much where your website is hosted. So it's actually a very simple process, but you may have to do it a couple of times before you really get it, but it's not really that difficult. So here's the diagram here I was telling you about. It's just you, the visitor. You put your domain name here. It goes to the DNS service, then to your web host, and then this is the domain registrar GoDaddy, which goes back up to the name service. It's kind of like somewhat of a loop there. But when you open a web browser and type in the domain name, like I said, then it maps it once again to the IP address for your web host, where all your files are. So as I said that earlier, but that's pretty basically how all this stuff ties in together. So once you go determine who your web host is going to be. Like I said, Bluehost is the best one, and this is very, very economical. I think it's $2.95 or $3.95 to start with your hosting per month. So that's actually cheap. So once you go there, you're going to see all these different plans, and I'm going to go over those next. Different types of dedicated plans, a dedicated server, virtual server, cloud-based server, etc. So once you start seeing all these different plans this way, you'll know exactly what you're looking at once you go through this presentation. But before I get there, I want to talk about you should have a goal for your website. Whether you're going to have one website, or you're going to have, if you're going to have one website, I highly recommend just getting the basic shared plan to start, because you're going to start with probably not a lot of traffic up front. So just get the shared plan, the basic plan for the one website. If you're going to have many websites, you can still get the shared plan, but you'll want to get, like they have like a basic, a gold, and a platinum package, and some of them name them differently. But if you want to do many websites, that's going to determine whether you want a shared plan or reseller or whatever you want. And so if you want a WordPress, also it depends on your goal actually, and your strategy is going to depend on whether you want to, you're going to have a WordPress website, which I highly recommend, or if you want to go with the web hosting site builders, because each web host does have their own site builders that you can use, or you want to take the more expensive route, you want to hire a developer to do your website. So these are things you need to be thinking about when we're talking about your goal and your website strategy. Also, do you expect to have high traffic, high volume of traffic, or low volume? I mean, do you want to go, worldwide, global, or do you want to just kind of stay local, for just a lower traffic? So these are things you can think about as you're starting to determine the type of website or the website hosting that you want to get. And just remember, you can always upgrade or downgrade packages. I mean, in this case, if you start with the basic plan, you're always going to be upgrading as you get more traffic, and I recommend you do that. So let's move on. So types of web hosting. So we'll talk about shared, we'll go over reseller, virtual private server, dedicated, cloud, and managed WordPress. Okay, we're going to go over all these types of web hosting, and pretty simple but in detail over the next slides. So let's talk about shared hosting. Some of the pros about shared, remember this is the basic plan. So to start, it's going to be cheap, quick, and easy. Those are the pros. Very economical. Like I said, if you're just starting out, you're a beginner, that's exactly where you need to start. The only con is it's not going to be that fast, but you don't need a lot of speed if you're just starting with a basic website. So that's what I recommend for the beginners. Okay? Because remember, you can, like I said, you can always upgrade if you need to. So the reseller hosting, let's kind of go over that. Now the reseller hosting, if you want to create, websites for others, if you want to do it for other small business, or if you just want to simply sell hosting plans, you can do that with the reseller hosting. So the pro here is, hey, you can sell hosting plans for others, and just have them pay you, and you just set up the hosting and let them do everything else on their own. The con is it's a shared server, so it's not a dedicated server. So there may be some issues of speed, but once again, if you're starting out small, you won't have that much of a problem. But at some point, if you start to, if you have a reseller account and you start hosting a lot of sites, you may want to move up to a different hosting plan. So the virtual private server, okay? This is a virtual server, okay? Just think of it as a virtual server. It's not an actual physical server, it's just a virtual server. So you're going to get more control over that server, and that's the pro. The con is it's going to be more expensive, and you may not be able to scale it depending on how many websites you have and how much traffic you're driving to them. So these are resources that pretty much act as your own. You're not necessarily sharing basic software with dedicated resources. So you're not sharing anything. You have your own. So it's a virtual server. It's not a physical server. And this is where if you have some more technical skills, you have more technical options. But just know that it may not be as scalable as the other options. But this is going to determine where you are with your websites and your traffic. Now, dedicated hosting, we're starting to get a little more expensive now. This here is your own physical dedicated server, okay? The only con here, well, it's a couple of cons, is the price is going to be very expensive. Could be anywhere up to $295 a month. I mean, roughly maybe $79 and up to maybe $295 a month. So you want to get this, but you want to make sure you have a lot of traffic and there's a need for this. So this is one step above the virtual private server hosting. You get your own physical server, but definitely for high traffic websites. And if you're one of my advanced techie guys like me, this will work great for you. Okay. Let's talk about cloud hosting. This is where, it's a very popular option obviously your website's going to be hosted in the cloud, and you certainly wouldn't get the same access as a dedicated server. However, it is fast. These are the pros. It's very fast and scalable. Once again, the price will be more expensive, and you may or may not have, well, you won't have as much control as you would if you had your dedicated server. So that's just a quick run through of cloud hosting. Let's talk, I think this is the last one. The managed WordPress hosting. This is where it's managed on the WordPress platform. It's very optimized and secure. Once again, it's going to be a little more expensive. And you may not have as much control, but like I said, this is similar to cloud hosting. But the key here is what makes it so fast is it's optimized for the WordPress content management system. All the updates are going to be done for you, so it's going to be more secure. But this is very fast. So depends on, if you have WordPress sites, which I recommend you do, it should be hosted on the WordPress platform. And you have a lot of sites and you want very fast sites, definitely managed WordPress hosting is something you'll want to look into. So now, what should you do next? Let's go here. So Bluehost, I have a link here, and it'll also be in the description. You can go there and get you a real inexpensive hosting. You can get a domain, whether it be GoDaddy or Hostgator, wherever you like. I actually use GoDaddy, Bluehost, and Hostgator. But you can get that set up and go ahead and make your first website. You can also check out the YouTube video I mentioned earlier on how to start a blog in 2020. There's a link to it. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. And there's the link to the YouTube if you want to just type that in, but I'll put it in the description below. So, kind of went over briefly. I hope I didn't go through it too quickly, but it's actually pretty simple. Once you do it, you'll probably have to, go out and get started. And once you do, you'll see what I'm talking about in terms of the different plans. So, if you liked content in this video, I want you to, if you would, like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell. You can also click the link in the description for more information. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.